Hi guys. It's me again here with Three Good Things. And this is like kind of a special edition of Three Good Things because I'm here with a very old friend of mine. Not that she herself is old, but that our friendship is long and enduring, which is better said. And we've known each other for a million years. Not really, but still, we were like young 20 somethings and publishing together. I don't know how long ago, Heather, has it's like 30, almost 30
30,
years. Oh
30
my
years.
God, we've been friends for so long. Anyway, Heather is the former editor in chief of American Spa magazine, and she is the current co founder of Well Defined, which is a wellness based website with really interesting articles on everything from health and fitness to finances to spiritual well being. It's really just kind of the whole package of well being. And I thought that it would be a really excellent thing during this, sort of prolonged pandemic that we're all going through. Writers are, well, I have obviously a lot of people that are watching my show are writers, my writer pals. And I thought it'd be really interesting to ask her for, instead of her favorite book, film and recipe, if she had three wellness tips for writers. So I'm just going to say, hi, Heather. Hi.
Hi, everyone. So great to
Thanks
be
for
here.
thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Of course.
Heather's also I should also say that she's also a writer. So she knows from when she speaks, she's written, for all kinds of magazines like American Spot and Hit Me Up.
I've written for Outside Online. I've written for Well and Good. I've written for just a whole host of
Yeah.
publications and such. So, yeah, and usually on the wellness topics,
Yes.
or travel.
Oh, travel, of course. So, yeah, so which I think all of us are really missing really missing now in a way that maybe we never thought we would, because a lot of authors, we have to travel a lot, and sort of at the end of any given year, you kind of feel like, oh my God, if I never see the inside of a plane again, it'll be too soon, until you have not seen the inside of a plane in like a year. Then then you're like, wow, it's been a long time. And also, I know that a lot of writers are, they're really struggling creatively right now, because it's really hard to focus on your work, I think, when kind of the world is on fire and it's been a very chaotic, year. So I was going to ask you, what is your first tip for writers? Like, how can they stay centered, self nurture, in order to kind of reconnect to their creativity if they've lost that, or keep it alive if they're still feeling that fire?
I have to say that this resonates so much because I've struggled with it myself during this time. I feel like we're all juggling a million things, and there's so many things going on, outside of our own little bubbles as well, which makes it really, really challenging to write and just to be creative.
Right.
So, one of the things I found that has really helped me the most is just getting out for a walk every morning
Mm-hmm.
without fail.
Mm-hmm.
It could be raining, it doesn't matter. I find I leave my apartment so rarely these days just because I'm in New York City. We're all kind of locked down. There's no indoor dining, all of that. There's really nowhere to go.
Right.
So we're just all kind of stuck in our apartments,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So I find whatever bit of nature I can get helps me exponentially.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate I live 3 blocks away from Prospect Park, which is kind
Mm.
of Brooklyn Central Park.
Yes.
And just getting back there in the trails and letting my mind wander
Yeah.
is fantastic. It's the one place I can kind of go and just be away from my computer, be away from my phone, and which is so hard to do these days. I feel like I'm on my computer from morning till I'm ready to crawl into bed, basically. So just getting away from that, anything digital, I find helps so much. And just being out there and just letting my mind wander. It's kind of like my own little meditative state, I would say. I mean, that's not to say I don't get out there and start doing my to-do list in my head as I'm walking, but
Right. But at least you shouldn't be doing that, so that when it does come up, you can go, no, no, not right now. I'm just going to be in this space and be in this walk. It's kind of like and exercise, walking, and especially outdoors is a big part of my process too. It's how I, if I'm stuck creatively, in my whatever I'm working on, like, God forbid you should get on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, because you're not going back to your writing from that place. but I always allow myself to break from my writing to exercise or to cook something, or even to do like just a load of laundry mindfully, right? Like, so that you take a break from what you're doing, but you're giving your brain some space to, find some new pathways for your project. But you're
I have to say, the cooking thing, that wasn't even one of my ideas, but I have to say that is one of the things that really just breaks up my day, and I find such joy in it. I mean, the other day I made a chicken pot pie, and it didn't take long. It was like 20 minutes. I have dinner for a few days or lunch, and I'm just thinking, oh my God, just to be away from my computer for a few
yeah.
minutes is priceless.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of a super interesting point in that, we have never been on our computers as much. When we were, if you went to an office, you were commuting, if like there was people around you, your meetings, you did a lot of other things in your workday rather than be at your computer. But now everything is happening on your computer, and every meeting, every interaction, even with friends, a lot of times is on your computer. You're in front of it all, and I don't think we realize like the kind of drain that it has on us and the kind of toll that it's taking. So anything you can do to get away, even if you can't go for a walk, even if you don't have that possibility, you maybe have small kids at home, just go outside, anywhere you can see anything green.
It's so true. It makes
Yeah.
such a difference. I mean, even on the weekends, my boyfriend and I have started taking these epic walks where we just kind of go out as far as we can in Brooklyn, and we visit these random neighborhoods. I mean, there's a cemetery here, which is so odd because I'm like, we're hanging out at the cemetery, but it's this beautiful place, just full of nature and just these beautiful buildings. It's Greenwood Cemetery here, and it's a very historic place. And so
Yeah.
just walking around there, you just feel like you're in another world, and it
Yeah.
makes such a difference. And we're getting outside, we're moving, which I think helps so much. And
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, it does. I mean, that just the physical movement, the endorphins, all that. And New York is such a great place to do that because you really can. And like people, I don't think people realize that like Manhattan is only 13 miles long,
mhm.
right? So you could literally walk the entire city. Like if you just like got out and started walking. Like I mean, you remember when I lived in Brooklyn on Skimmerhorn Street, and I was working at Hudson and Houston. I would walk to work over the Brooklyn Bridge, and it was like an hour door to door, which seems like a really long commute, but it was like, I was like, I used to say like all the answers are on the Brooklyn Bridge, but it turns out they're just anywhere that you're walking, which is
It's
the good
beautiful.
news.
It really is beautiful to take that walk. I do that sometimes because just I don't want to get on the subway right now
Yeah.
sometimes. So I'm kind of like, and I've got time, so I just or I'll walk the Williamsburg Bridge or the Manhattan Bridge. The Brooklyn Bridge can be a little crazy these days, so
Yeah.
it's a little
Yeah, I'm
close
sure
to
it
home
is. It wasn't
sometimes.
so crazy back then, like in the, early morning or whatever. Lots of commuters
Right.
doing like the same thing.
It's got the best views though when you're on there.
Oh, it
It's
does.
just,
It
it's
does for
incredible.
sure. It does
And
for
when I can't do that, I'm always thinking like, even I'm doing a lot of online yoga these days, which I
Oh,
think
yeah.
also really helps. And there's so many things that are free online,
Yeah.
on demand, or even just going to my regular yoga studio. They've moved online, so even though I can't walk the block because they're not open, I can still see the same instructors. I just do it
Yeah.
in my living room,
Yeah.
basically.
And that's a really good thing. That's a really good thing.
Yeah, there's so many options out there these days.
Yes,
Keep
absolutely.
busy.
And I should mention that an author pal of mine, Sarah DeVello, who's an excellent writer, she's also an amazing yoga teacher. And she has an online yoga class, which I have taken, and it's fantastic. So, there are people that I know who are doing that. I also have a friend who does a bar Pilates kind of fusion thing. She does a great class. So there's a lot of stuff to be found online that is, completely free, or just a very low cost. And you can kind of, use that. If you can't get out to walk, at least do something like that.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
when now that it's getting rather cold here and it's snowing and a little dreary, it
Yeah,
becomes even more tempting to just throw down the mat and you
exactly.
know,
Put it down the mat. Exactly.
yeah. And another thing I find really, which is I'm sure a lot of writers already do this, is just I've started journaling, which I
Mm,
found really helpful because it's not necessarily work related, and
right.
You know, I've sent this amazing journal called like the JMB Living Journal, and it's
Mm.
got these great prompts throughout it. It's kind of like, what is what are you going to do today to move yourself forward, and you know, things like that, or what
Yeah.
beauty did you notice in the world today? And those are things that, like, when I go out on my walk, sometimes I think about that, because I think, oh, I have to fill out my journal and I have to, like, but it makes me notice things, and it makes me
Yeah.
much more mindful of the world around me. And just, you know, even coming up with a mantra, like, what is my affirmation for today? Like, if I
Right.
think about it, it's kind of like I will actually put it into practice if
Mhm.
I do it first thing in the morning. And it also keeps me from getting on my phone first thing in the morning. It's something that I can just kind of sit
Right.
there, have a cup of tea, do my journal before, you know, the world comes crashing in. Because
Right.
otherwise I'd roll out of bed and just start, you know, working.
Yeah,
As
just get
opposed
onto
to,
that the hamster wheel, the mental hamster wheel, like the Zoom to Instagram to Facebook to email to whatever. Yeah, it's just kind of a crazy. That reminds me, the journaling thing reminds me of the morning pages,
mm,
with which is a part of the Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, who you and I both worked with her, didn't we?
good. And I, yeah, although I think
Yeah.
you work more closely with her,
Yeah,
actually.
and as a publicist, as a book publicist, and I that book is like, something that I return to again and again, like it just a little bit as a touchstone. But she's got these couple of things in there, like in the morning pages is one of the first things. Like you just get up and start writing first thing in the morning, and it
Mhm.
doesn't matter what you write. It's not your necessarily your project, your fiction. It could just be just a total stream of consciousness. No one's ever going to see it, no one's ever going to judge it. You're not going to look at it again. You're not going to judge it. You just write, just to connect with that writer self. And that really helps. If you have a couple of days where you've just been kind of inundated by news and anxiety over the pandemic, or just stressed because your whole family's at home and you're unable to get your work done, just to take those early morning hours before people get up and use that time to write whatever it is that you can write is so centering, and will connect you to the person that you need to write your book or whatever it is that you're working on.
I love that. And we have so many things that are, you know, vying for our time these days, that if you don't take the time for yourself to really, you know, just, you know, we talk about self-care all the time.
Right.
It really, it's impossible to be creative without it. I mean, otherwise you're just the hamster running on the wheel, basically.
Exactly. That is really true. That is really true. And I think that it's just easy to get caught up in that because, in a way, it's in some ways it helps us, like, kind of helps us to almost manage the anxiety, or we think we're managing our anxiety by, like, obsessively doing whatever it is we do online, or doom scrolling or whatever. But it's like, it's important to know that when you do that, when you doom scroll, when you social media site hop, you're not helping yourself. You're never going to walk away from that feeling nourished or better. And you just got to remind yourself, like, put a little sticky. I have a million, like, sticky notes like this all over, and you just put a little sticky note on your computer, and, like, are you helping yourself? to remember that there is something that you could do. You could cook, you could go for a walk, you could do some yoga, and that is going to nourish you. Or you could be locked into your computer doing things that are not creative, and you're going to walk away from that feeling worse than you did when you got there.
Right. It's
Yeah.
so funny because the other day I was thinking about this, and as I was journaling, and I decided, like, my mantra for the day or my affirmation was the fact that I'm not defined by my productivity. Because I feel
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, if I haven't accomplished, like, if I haven't finished a story, or if I haven't, you know, come up with a great story idea or done this, it almost feels like the day is a failure in some
Right.
sense. And so
Right.
I had to kind of get out of that mindset and be like, no, this is not, you know, because the next day I could be full of ideas, but I just need to give myself that window to kind of, you know, get there, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, like, a lot of times, I mean, for me, like, with deadlines and, having a kid during this time, and, like, all the different responsibilities of the house and all that stuff, like it's easy to like think, oh, great, like, self-care, I'll add that, to my to-do list. It'll be another thing that I wasn't able to do, and I'll feel bad about it. Like, wow, I don't know what, like moisturize. I don't know. Like whatever you do to like do self-care. So I think it's important to I try to remind myself that it's not something that you have to do. It's something that you receive from yourself, and that it makes you more of who you are, so that you can continue to do good work and to be a good mom and to be a good, friend and sister and all of that stuff. So, the more you give to yourself, the better you take care of yourself, the better you're taking care of the other people in your life. And I think sometimes, especially moms, need to hear that one. Just, oh, great.
Absolutely.
I'll just add that on. And then I didn't do that either. So perfect. Love that.
Well, it's also impossible to be creative when you're so completely stressed all the
No, it
time.
is. It's
You,
the
you,
it's
you
the
aren't at your
total
best.
enemy of creativity. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think Americans are the worst at it. I mean, we really
Absolutely.
are. I just did a story recently about a bunch of expats or people who have moved from the States during the pandemic. And
Oh yeah.
fascinating because they've chosen places like Costa Rica, Bali, and they're all kind of in the wellness fields and such. But it's like they just needed something different and they needed to slow down, and they're living in these cultures that kind of respect that a little bit more than we do here. And
Yeah.
we're all
Yeah.
very driven, and I think it's just from a young age we're kind of taught to like go 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 and
Yeah, we are, and I think it's important to remember that the people that want you to go, go, go are not necessarily invested in your health and your well-being. And that
exactly.
it is important to have goals, and it's meaningful to have a purpose, and it's important to have an engine in your life, but it has to be within. It can't be, because it's being demanded of you by somebody else.
Exactly. And
So
I
it's an
think
important distinction.
it's really interesting to explore that, just how we approach consumerism and all that. And like when you prioritize things, and you just look at, I mean, even Europe, it's like a lot of people in Spain, the siesta, the lunch with family and
Right.
friends, things like
Right.
that. Those simple rituals, I mean, they add so much meaning to your life. And I think, we kind of miss out on those sometimes because, we're
Yeah.
just busy and,
Yep.
we're all looking
Absolutely.
at our computers and eating our lunch at the same time. And,
Yeah, no, no more multitasking.
oh my God, I want to start a movement. No
Yeah,
multitasking.
I know. It's definitely time. Maybe that'll be one of the takeaways from some of this, is that, like I know this is a very dark time. There's no way around that. A lot of us are grieving, not, loved ones, um people that we miss that we can't see, are even just we're grieving what our lives used to be, because I don't think anybody thought in January 2021 we would still be in the middle of this. But I think that maybe also there can be some positive takeaways from this moment. Even in the most horrible situations, there might be some lessons. So maybe it'll be something like that. Like it's
I
time
think
time to slow down. Time to slow
Yeah.
down.
And I think we all realize like we don't have to be in an office to work. We can,
Mhm.
you can live wherever. Or
Right.
a lot of people, not everybody, but like
Right.
those of us who can work remotely.
Right.
Um, and I think that opens up a lot of different avenues and things to explore. It's
Right.
just, I think we just have to be we have to be more disciplined in realizing that we don't have to be working every moment because our office is in our homes. So we just have to
Right.
have that cutoff point and
Right.
set
Exactly.
boundaries.
Exactly.
No
Exactly.
email after a certain time, if things like that.
So, do you have anything final that you would like to leave our struggling writers with? You've given so many tips. Did I run you out of your 3 tips, or do you have one more up your sleeve?
You know what? I think those were my tips, but honestly, I think it's just a matter of, setting priorities and boundaries and kind of sticking to them and just
Yeah.
finding makes what gives you joy. I mean, for me, during this pandemic, the library has been like my biggest salvation because
Mm.
I love to read. More
Mm-hmm.
than I love to write, I love to read. And
Mm-hmm.
any moments, reading before I go to bed, that is like my happy place, or on the
Yeah.
weekends when I can find
Right.
time. I mean, I just get so much joy out of that. And I think
Yeah.
it's just a matter of finding those things, those activities. And,
Right.
they don't have to be like, an Epsom salt bath or anything like
Right.
that, or a trip to the
Right.
spa. It's just those simple things that you can do that give you joy, and just spending an hour doing them, and prioritizing them, and
Yep.
realizing that that's helping your creativity in a sense, because you're turning off your mind. Um,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, absolutely. I completely agree with that. I always say, to my writer friends who are, just struggling for, just the logistical time to write because, their husband or wives are home in this new way, their kids are homeschooling, and it's just kind of like a chaos. I always say, there are these beautiful hours that nobody else wants, and that's from 4 to 6 a.m. Nobody wants those hours. You can always have those 2 hours, and 2 hours are enough to really make a substantial dent in whatever it is that you're working on, if you're working with enough time, right? But I think I'm going to like add a little bit of an amendment to that, because I mean, it's kind of like a hard driving statement. It's kind of like, yeah, just don't sleep, basically, is what we're telling parents who are up until like 11 or 12 with their screaming toddler for whatever reason. So I think I'm just going to add a little bit of an amendment to that. You can find an hour for yourself somewhere. And if you write, that's great. And if you just, look at a tree, or, I also will add that an Epsom salt bath is a game changer. It really is. I don't know why. I will never understand it, but like an Epsom salt bath is like the most soothing thing there is. So
You also have the ocean there, so you
I
can
do. I do. It's pretty cold right now for Floridians. The water is, I don't know what, like 70 degrees. I don't think we can.
there's a whole wellness angle to that,
Oh,
though.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. I was reading about that. I know. We need to
That's
talk more about.
a whole other show. We could talk about.
Oh, oh yes, we're gonna talk about that for sure, for sure. Okay, and another show. But yeah, it's just like this beautiful, like sort of soothing thing. So you can find an hour, try to find an hour somewhere to take care of yourself. And I always say about writing, set the schedule, set the time, and honor the schedule, right? But I'm
Absolutely.
going to say that also, especially in this time, you know, find a moment, set it for yourself, like a date with yourself, even if it's a half hour, even if it's 45 minutes, it can do wonders. Set the schedule for yourself and honor the schedule. So those are a little bit softer driving. We'll get back to the hard driving after after when everybody's feeling a little stronger. But right now, anything that you accomplish in your writing life is a win. Anything.
Yeah, and just realizing that, and you and I have talked about this a lot, the focus and the batching and things like that.
Mhm.
If you just put your focus on one thing, it's like you
Yeah,
just kind of, like you said, you pick an hour. I'm going to do this one thing just
exactly.
for this hour, and when the hour's over, I'm going to stop doing that and do all the other things that are calling for my attention. But like for that 1 hour, it's you get so much more done. You're able to think clearly when you just know you are exactly where you need to be, doing what you need to do.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's really almost everything. Be
Hmm.
where you are, do what you're doing.
Exactly.
Heather, thank you so much. Again, the website is welldefined.com, and it's really, really fascinating. So check it out. There are a million great articles about, just everything that, is of interest to anybody who's interested in wellness. And I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy it. And I love talking to you. You're just like the best. You're like one of my dearest friends, and I just cherish every moment, even this Zoom moment with you.
Same.
I wish we were sitting on the, I wish we had like a little table in the middle of us and we were having a coffee. But at least we have this. So
Exactly.
gratitude.
Until we can be together again.
Thank you, Lovey.
Thank you.